New Liskeard was a town located in the northeast of Ontario, Canada. In 2004, the towns of New Liskeard, Haileybury and Diamond were joined together to form the city of Temiskaming Shores. Temiskaming Shores is renowned for its warm northern hospitality and stunning natural surroundings. The city boasts numerous picturesque landscapes, a diverse cultural heritage, comprehensive educational and healthcare facilities, and a multicultural community. Melanie Ethier moved to New Liskeard with her family when she was 6 years old. Later in her life, she welcomed her daughter, Melanie Nadia Ethier, who was born in the city on Christmas Day of 1980. In the early 1990s, Melanie became a mother for the second time and welcomed a daughter named Jessie. Melanie was described as being salt of the earth, outgoing and of a loving personality with a great sense of humour, and was known to care for her younger sister almost like a second mother. Melanie had no relationship with her father, who was reportedly from Botswana in Africa. Her father and Melanie had met in the former town of Haileybury when her father was attending mining school. While Melanie was pregnant with Melanie, her father relocated to another school and subsequently returned to his home country when he completed his studies. It was 1996, and 15-year-old Melanie was an 11th grade honour student at New Liskeard's École Secondaire Catholique Sainte-Marie. After graduating from high school, Melanie's aspiration was to pursue a career in teaching, and also in her free time, Melanie had been learning self-defence with a friend. It was Sunday the 29th of September, and Melanie was woken up by Melanie's alarm clock, which had been set for around 6 a.m, to ensure Melanie's timely arrival at the Garderie Richelieu, a local daycare centre where she worked. Melanie's grandparents arrived at the house around 10 a.m. to celebrate her grandmother's birthday, expecting Melanie to have completed cake preparation that she had planned. Initially, Melanie wasn't concerned, assuming her daughter had dozed off while watching a film at her friend Ryan Chatwin's house the night prior. As time passed, Melanie became concerned and anxious. Melanie and her father went to Tim Hortons to purchase a cake and tried calling various places hoping to reach Melanie. She didn't possess the phone number of Melanie's friend Ryan Chatwin, however Melanie managed to get a friend to call the house, which was 6 blocks away, and asked about Melanie's whereabouts. Melanie stated, quote, "They were supposed to be somewhere else, but her friend whose place she was supposed to go wasn't home because she had a bit of an accident." Melanie's heart sank when she was informed that her daughter had left her friend's house at approximately 2 a.m. Furthermore, Melanie didn't show up for her scheduled daycare shift, prompting her mother to contact the New Liskeard Police Service around 1 p.m. to report Melanie as missing. The town's police department initiated a search effort, while Melanie tirelessly scoured every possible location where her daughter might be. She engaged with the media and distributed posters to raise awareness of Melanie's disappearance. Meanwhile, the community rallied together, coordinating fundraising events to support Melanie and 5-year-old Jessie, and ensuring they were provided with meals during this challenging time. Melanie was determined to find her daughter and took matters into her own hands. She stated to Global News, quote, "My house felt like a big funeral for the first 2 weeks because I had people dropping off food, flowers, gifts. I had a lot of contact with the police. They really kept me up to date. I did many searches myself with friends." Melanie's loved ones were puzzled by her vanishing, as there were no indications that she was planning to leave or sever contact with her family and friends. With aid from witnesses, police investigators constructed a timeline of events leading up to Melanie's unexplained vanishing. The following details are courtesy of CBC podcast The Next Call. On the morning of Saturday, September 28, 1996, Melanie travelled to the home of her mother's close friend, Sylvie Chartrand. Present in the house were Melanie, Sylvie, and Sylvie's 6-year-old daughter, Stephanie, as Sylvie's partner, Denis Leveille, and her son, Jason, were out of town. During the visit, Melanie became upset and frustrated after breaking a nail. Sylvie later theorised that Melanie's distress may have been heightened by the family's financial struggles, such as their car issues and their phone service being disconnected the day before due to unpaid bills. Melanie departed from Sylvie's residence and headed downtown, where she encountered her best friend at a bus stop near the new Liskeard Public Library. Her friend, who had been studying in the library, opted to accompany Melanie. The two friends explored various spots in New Liskeard, and one of their stops was at a pizza where they enjoyed lunch. While savouring their pizza, Melanie shared the notion of pursuing a teaching career and volunteering in Botswana, her father's homeland. Melanie also bought candles, frosting, candy hearts, and a new cake pan to bake a cake for her grandmother's upcoming birthday celebration, scheduled for the next day before her grandparents left town. Additionally, they stopped by a residence in the nearby township of Diamond to retrieve payment from someone Melanie had provided babysitting services for. During their outing, the girls crossed paths with Melanie's boyfriend, Neil Fortier, whom she'd been seeing for 3 weeks, along with their friends Dave Bromley, Jay Denom, and Ryan Chatwin. According to Neil, Melanie was in a good mood. Between 9 and 9:30 p.m, the group made a stop at a video rental store and selected the movie Sudden Death. By 10 p.m, they had gathered at the Ethier residence to watch the film. Celine Ethier, spending time with Melanie's grandmother in the living room, suggested that Melanie's bedroom was too messy to accommodate guests. Despite being offered the option to watch the film in her room, Melanie insisted that they find another location to watch it, prompting the group to leave the house. They attempted to watch the movie at the residence of Dave Bromley's then-girlfriend, Samaya Benchabi, but she was unable to host them due to her family preparing for a move. However, Samaya briefly accompanied them as they walked to another house. She parted ways with the group at the Armstrong Street Bridge and returned home. Around this time, Melanie's female friend noted a sudden drop in temperature. Around 10 p.m, the group moved to a residence on Pine Avenue, where Ryan Chatwin resided. Although Ryan's parents were in the house, they stayed in their bedroom. Dave departed for his home at this juncture. The house was approximately a 10 to 12 minute walk from the Ethier residence, or roughly 6 blocks away. As per eyewitness accounts, the teenagers watched the movie quietly in the basement while Ryan's parents slept. There is no indication that any alcohol or drugs were consumed by any members of the group that evening. Before the film they were watching concluded, Jay Denom left the house around 12:30 to 1 a.m. and returned home. Similarly, Melanie's female friend left early, aiming to catch a ride to Haileybury, departing also around 12:30 to 1 a.m. While exiting the house, she encountered a suspicious vehicle slowly approaching her as she crossed an intersection, seemingly assessing her. Feeling unsettled by the incident, she swiftly ran to the next intersection by the Armstrong Street Bridge, which was better illuminated. She followed the same route presumed to have been taken by Melanie to the Ethier home, where Melanie's grandparents waited for her return so they could take her home. The unnamed female friend arrived at the Ethier residence shortly before 1 a.m, catching the last few minutes of Saturday Night Live before being driven home. The vehicle she encountered was described as a white or light-coloured Chevrolet Monte Carlo or a similar two-door model in a poor condition. The vehicle had a grey patch on the right side, which was likely present in order to conceal damage of some sort. The witness believed there were 2 teenage boys or young men inside the vehicle, but couldn't recall ever seeing this car again. At the time of her departure, only 3 of the friends remained in the Chatwin home: Melanie, Neil, and Ryan. The last confirmed sighting of Melanie Ethier occurred around 1:30 to 2 a.m. on September 29, 1996, as she departed her friend's house and embarked on the 1-kilometre journey to her home, walking alone. It was unusual for Melanie to walk home unaccompanied, but with no phone service available, she couldn't request a ride. One of the boys accompanied her to the front door and observed her heading west along Pine Avenue East. Melanie's path would have encompassed 3 intersections, traversed the Armstrong Street Bridge, passed by a gas station and an apartment building, proceeded either through a back alley or along a main road, and finally ascended to the top of Church Street, where the Ethier residence was situated. According to accounts from family and friends, Melanie typically favoured using the back alley during this journey. The bridge was the sole portion of Melanie's route that boasted bright lighting, and the street would have maintained reasonable activity even during the late hours when she was spotted crossing it. Following the bridge, the final segment of her homeward walk involved a dimly lit back road where the video rental store she had visited earlier in the day was situated. The weather that evening was clear, and given that only 2 days had passed since the previous full moon, it is assumed that there would have been some natural illumination along Melanie's route. At the time, she was dressed in a green Nike windbreaker, a white t-shirt featuring a blue heart Pepe logo, blue jeans, a black belt with a silver buckle, black boots with a short heel, a necklace, and a watch. At the time she vanished, Melanie Ethier was 15 years old. She is described as a black female standing at 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighing 120 pounds, has brown eyes, long braided black hair, and is of a dark complexion and slim build. Police were certain it was a case of foul play. Over a dozen police officers and volunteer firefighters combed through the locations where Melanie had been last seen, and police departments throughout Ontario were notified of her disappearance. Despite conducting a thorough door-to-door canvassing, no residences in the vicinity were searched by authorities. Search teams were unsuccessful in locating any clues regarding Melanie's whereabouts or any indication of where she might have vanished or been taken. Officially, no evidence has been unearthed in the case. However, according to the Ethier family, a solitary item may have been found by the police on the initial day of the search, but was never disclosed publicly. Hundreds of people were interviewed, both as suspects and persons of interest. However, nothing significant rose from these interrogations. Many witnesses came forward to investigators. One witness stated that they saw a woman in the middle of the bridge and was coerced into a vehicle by 2 male individuals. Another witness, who came forward in 2021, stated that at around 1:45 a.m. on the night she vanished, she heard a piercing scream. Approximately 45 seconds later, she heard more shouting, which heightened her fear. After ensuring that her front door was secured, the witness stealthily approached her bay window. From there, she observed 3 silhouettes of individuals sprinting down the street towards Pine Avenue, yet no vehicles or headlights were visible. Posters and billboards featuring Melanie's image were erected in New Liskeard and nearby areas. Celine, along with volunteers from the community and Jay Denom, distributed posters in New Liskeard and beyond to places such as Timmins, Ottawa and Montreal. Celine also penned a letter to the editor of the Temiskaming Speaker newspaper, which was published in a November edition. Additionally, Celine forwarded information about Melanie to media outlets in Toronto, aiming to sustain awareness of the case. The Ontario Provincial Police, also known as OPP, has a theory suggesting that Melanie was taken against her will by a stranger, or enticed into the vehicle by someone she knew. The investigation is further complicated by the presence of the Trans-Canada Highway, which runs through the community and increases the likelihood of a random assault by an outsider. The speculation that Melanie was taken by her estranged father has been dismissed by the OPP, who have ruled him out as a suspect. Celine has criticised the theory suggesting that her daughter was coerced into a sex trafficking ring. Some believed that she was murdered by a serial killer or was victim of a drunk driver. In 2005, a relative of Melanie reported being contacted by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Canmore, Alberta, regarding a man in their custody who had allegedly confessed to the crime but later died by suicide. Another theory proposing that Melanie fell into the Wabi River and drowned has been rejected by her family, as Melanie was proficient in swimming and no remains were ever recovered from the river. It must be stated that Melanie's friends who were with her on the night she disappeared are not considered suspects in the case. Chillingly, it was reported that a makeshift gravestone was found in a graveyard in North Cobalt, which bore the words, "Rest in peace, Melanie Ethier." Celine Ethier believes that the North Cobalt Cemetery is the most probable location where Melanie's body might have been buried. This belief stems from the fact that one of the suspects, Denis Levea, who was the husband of her close friend Sylvia, had previously worked at the cemetery and was highly acquainted with the surrounding vicinity. Denis allegedly had a troubled upbringing and had suffered somewhat both emotionally and physically in his life. He was also allegedly involved in drugs and had history of making advances towards minors. His daughter, Stephanie, was reported to have said that it was strongly apparent that her father was a predator. He had also spent time in prison for such offences. During the weekend when Melanie vanished, Denis and his stepson, Jason, initially claimed they were going fishing with Denis' brother and Jason's friend. However, Denis later confessed they attended a motocross competition in North Bay. Jason confirmed this alibi in a 2021 interview, though his memory was allegedly affected by the trauma of Melanie's loss. Denis mentioned spending time at a bar without Jason. They returned home between 12 and 4 p.m. on September 29th, and Denis helped in the search, even borrowing a friend's dog for assistance, as confirmed by investigators. The day following Melanie's reported disappearance, her grandmother had a disconcerting encounter with Denis when he entered the basement of the Ethier residence to smoke a cigarette. This struck her as highly unusual since he had never ventured there before, and Celine prohibited smoking in her home. 3 days into the investigation, Denis remarked to Celine that the individual responsible for harming her daughter must have been very strong, as Melanie was capable of defending herself. To illustrate his point, Denis showed Celine deep nail marks on his arms, claiming they were from play fighting with Melanie. It was at this juncture that Celine began harbouring significant suspicions about Denis. Witnesses reported that Denis' reasoning behind the scratch marks were different than what he had told Celine. For instance, he told one witness that the marks were caused by brushing up against branches in woodland as he volunteered in the search for Melanie. Despite their suspicions and mounting accounts of criminal behaviour, Denis died in 2016, with any secrets he may have possessed taken with him to the grave. On August 11th, 2009, Celine Ethier established a Facebook page titled "Let's Work Together to Find Melanie Ethier" to raise awareness of Melanie's case. Celine told Global News, quote, "I believe in my heart that she's passed away, but I just feel that I need to find her. She deserves to be found. The people who are responsible should acknowledge what they've done." She further said, quote, "I think in my heart the only way to find her is if I'm given a location. To me, it's not as important to know who did it as it is to find my daughter to give her a place of rest. In my heart, I believe she deserves to be found. She should not just be out there somewhere and forgotten. There is currently a $50,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest or conviction in the case. If you possess any details about the disappearance of Melanie Ethier, you can contact Detective Sergeant Lisa Laxton at 705-647-8400. Alternatively, if you prefer to maintain anonymity, you can contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477.